Okay, so how many of you are familiar with web scraping or web crawling? Okay, so about half maybe. So, you know, if you think about the internet today, we sort of realized there's like a really big problem with it, which is it was built for people. So, kind of obvious, but the whole internet is basically websites that are designed for you to be able to consume on a screen from your browser, and this is how it was designed. And now, if you look at it, you're consuming it on mobile phones, you're on tablets. You know, earlier there was a presentation with the smartwatch. You're coming in on very different devices, different form factors. So how are we solving this problem? The way we're solving this problem is everyone is employing large numbers of developers to go and scrape the websites or find out what the underlying data is on the websites, make it into a structured form, and then feed it to whatever device it is. So that's sort of what originally started Kimono. We realized that those things, programmatic access to the web they're called APIs, so application programming interfaces. And the web needs to be replaced in its entirety with a layer of APIs that let all of us interact with it. If the Internet of Things is supposed to happen, you actually need APIs. And if anyone wants to take a guess at how much of the web is actually structured in this form, I'll just tell you the answer. It's 0.0005%, so it's abysmally low. So it's 3 zeros after the decimal point. And so what we realized is, there's a second tier of problem here. It's not just developers who are encountering this. More and more, and I think this is what we see with a lot of the finance professionals, is people are looking to make sense of data on the web. You're looking to turn it into spreadsheets. Let's say you wanted to track prices of a particular company's product across different countries all over the world. So you might go to Amazon. You technically can find all this information there, but that's millions of pages that you would have to click through, or maybe you hire some guys on Odesk to click through it for you. It's basically untenable unless you have a bunch of engineers on staff, and then what they do is they write a bunch of web crawlers that go out and do it automatically. So this is sort of an example of this digital divide that's emerging. If you can program, suddenly you can do this. If you can't program, good luck. You either have enough money to go hire a programmer or just use less information and hopefully you make a better decision, or as good a decision. So we thought this was pretty silly, so we decided to replace web scraping. So this is how we do it. So that's the Chrome extension. Now you can see it's sitting in the corner right here. So that's Kimono. It's great. Our entire 1 year of work is basically a bookmarklet that sits in your browser. Awesome. So I'm going to start it off on this site. This is a good demo site, but we can do it on any website you want. So let's say you wanted to go and get all the data from this page. So you'll see this is the first page of information. If you go to the bottom, there's a more link, so you can follow that through, and there's hundreds more pages behind it. And normally, this is the point at which you'd hire a programmer, and they'd go and spend a few hours writing code. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to click this. So you see we sort of hijack the page with this little toolbar on top. So I'm going to click on the first piece of information I want. So Kimono runs some code right now that automatically recognizes similar objects. So it says, okay, these look like you wanted a title. Let's get some other titles. Then I'm going to click this plus. Let's say I want comments. So I'll click here. Okay, so it says maybe you want some other things, but let's select the comments and tell it that it was wrong about these guys. Anyway, you can keep going through this process. And one more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it where the link I want it to follow. So I'll click over here on a pagination icon and tell it to follow this link right here. So now you can see I'm just going to change modes. So you'll see it sort of organize all the data into kind of a data model. So group those together, realize these are all related to a single entry. And then if I look at the preview, actually this is programmer format, but basically I've turned the whole website and all the pages behind it into a spreadsheet that I could export, and I can run it on a schedule. So I'll click done. Let's call this website's Hacker News. So I'll call it Hacker News, and say I want 5 pages. That should be fine. And then maybe I want it every hour, and click done. And so basically I just built a feed that's going to go back to this website every hour and get every single page, and I'm just going to have it in a table. And so it's interesting, in a lot of our conversations, it turned out that hedge funds have entire teams that do this. They were not super happy, at least because the first calls were with the teams, and they were not excited about us. But hopefully other people will be. So that's basically, like, in a nutshell, what we do. Pretty straightforward. You can set up things like email alerts. So for example, There's a large financial data provider that I won't name that uses us, and basically they monitor hundreds of thousands of pages on the web for specific pieces of information. And when they change, basically you'll get an alert. And there's a couple of ways you can get an alert, either an email alert, so that's pretty obvious. The other thing is called a webhook, which basically triggers an action that can go and feed information into your database or get a program that you have that's running on top of it. There have been some like trading bots, especially in the cryptocurrency space, that did bring down our servers in the early days. So early days being a few months ago. So yeah, we built an API for the SEC. And so it's free, and you can kind of access all of the data. I mean, it's not every single piece of data, but it's all the major data. So from your balance sheets, your income statements, your cash flow statements, all the ratios, current as soon as it comes out, and historic for the past 5 years. And you can literally just come here and dump it in. So for example, so this is basically, I've got the form 10K selected. So these are the main 10K annual metrics for all the years. I could specify a particular year. I can also specify, oh, hang on, what happened here? Okay. I guess Apple hasn't released the 2015 10K for the first quarter yet. Is that right? Okay. And then you can add in any basket of stocks you want. So Microsoft, 10Q. Okay, there you go. So essentially what we did is, so this is all free, and hopefully this is of some use to some of you guys. I believe this is available through Bloomberg and various other services if you pay. But the idea here is just to see, it seemed like there were a lot of people using it, again, using Kimono in a finance application. We thought, let's expose some SEC data. We thought it would be valuable. So would love to kind of get your thoughts on if that is or not. I'll share one more application which some people have been building. It's been used by quants. And so what they've been doing is actually scraping global news headlines and actually like analyzing them for signals. So there's a very easy way you can run sentiment analysis on top of this, and we have some blogs on how to do that in a few more minutes than what we just did. And so you can get, apparently some of them are able to extract meaningful signals on which they trade, and they seem to be doing well. So that's it. I know it's like not exactly a finance tool, but that's what I have. So if you guys have any questions, happy to field some.
So I first want to put my questions in context.
Okay.
I think that data scraping off the web is one of the holy grails, and it's incredibly important. And even if this thing only worked for 20% of the data on the web, it's huge. Okay, but now I have questions. So how do you deal with the fragility of this approach? When people change their websites, things start breaking down. That's my first question, and I made some follow-up ones.
Yeah, so great question. So right now, the solution to fragility is it's really quick to build one. So if it breaks, you get an alert, you go back in and you edit it. The other interesting thing is it actually hasn't, they change less frequently than we expected. And then of course in the paid tiers, we would maintain those for you.
Okay, also websites don't like getting hit by lots of different people. So are you going to put some man-in-the-middle stuff and approach your caching results? Because that may lessen the chance that they will take countermeasures and start shutting it down.
Yeah, it's a great question. Actually, this is all going to be like televised, right? But there's a weird analogy with like legalizing marijuana somewhere in there, because the reason is like you're going to get scraped anyway, right? Like you're getting scraped right now by like tens of thousands of bots. If 5,000 of those people are coming through us, you get scraped once for each of them, and we'll do it responsibly. So, you have more control.
Okay. Great. So it's responsible marijuana for the internet. Okay, great.
I never thought about it that way, but I like that pitch.
Okay. How do you deal with licensable data or license restricted data? I know a lot of publishing companies have licenses around their content, for example?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So is that for content behind the paywall, or literally content that's publicly out there that they claim?
Content that could be publicly out there,
okay,
that they put in fine print at the bottom,
so this is
restricted to licenses.
This is a bit of a philosophical point, right? So, and this is, so I'll tell you my point of view on this. It's at what point do you draw the line, right? So I could go to the website, I could copy that data down, and that's fine. I could also go to Odesk and get 100 people in India to do that. That's fine. But the minute I have code doing it, that's a problem. And it's pretty hazy. And it's interesting when you look at kind of like the legal precedent. A lot of it depends on the end user application. And so this is actually something we've taken upon ourselves. So for example, if someone's going and scraping the New York Times and saying, publishing their own website and saying, we're just going to give you New York Times content for free, we shut that scraper off, because that's not the behavior that we're trying to drive. Instead, what we've been finding a lot is people going and, like sort of like the news crawling is like they're crawling it, they're creating a signal out of it. Now, that was not a signal that was provided to you by like CNN.com. That's like value-added data they've built on top. So the idea is we believe that's important, and we believe that's actually fair use. And so that's our logic on it.
Some advice for you. Watch the lawsuit between 3Taps and Craigslist.
Yeah, well, we haven't bothered Craigslist yet.
No, but they're attacking this exact problem legally in the news right now.
Yeah,
so
no, I mean,
watch it.
I agree. I mean, it's definitely a risk, but at the same time, I mean, it's going to get on. There needs to be like a better way of protecting content versus putting it in fine print and saying like, this is mine.
Yeah. So really cool, man. Actually, so first thing, when you said like, you would, if you had 5,000 customers, it would scrape 5,000 times like responsibly. I think you could do away with that with just scraping it once good and then, distributing that. But the really cool thing, I was going to ask the question, like, obviously, like, you came up with this and it's pretty cool and like, it's going to be useful. But then my question was going to be is like, what do you think this is like really going to be important for, rather than just like building something and then doing that? And then you just mentioned this thing about like not crossing the line, and everyone's talked about the line. And so I'd suggest like a Sergey Brin thing, like why don't you actually build the internet of scraping, like the Google of scraping, just scrape everything and fuck the line. And just do it all.
Yeah, that's the plan.
That's like don't stop at the line, man. Just do the whole thing.
Yeah,
the whole internet.
Google is the world's largest web scraper.
Like,
right?
Then we won't need to talk about 0.0005%. Like, man, that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
Do it. I'll help you.
all right. Sounds good.
So this is a suggestion in a worst case scenario, because you could have legal issues, okay?
Sure.
Suppose that happens. A lot of companies who build applications would love to have APIs, but their development teams have, for whatever kind reason, have not done so well. So they have a website and everything, but there's no API for it. So there may be cases for enterprises in this situation, and there may be a fair number of them who would actually like to take their websites and create APIs that they can use internally and for their customers. And that this is a way around a difficult and embarrassing situation for them, but could have real utility.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. It's actually already happening. All right, thanks.